Welcome to SHIfT Happens, where we discuss all things yoga, creating transformative experiences on the mat, off the mat, and on the path of yoga with your host, International Yogini, Mimi Adeogba.
Good morning, everyone. This is Yogini Mimi, your stress-reducing genie, welcoming to the show our guest today, C.Lei Adeogba. Hi, Shonda.
Hi, Mimi. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Great.
C.Lei is the lead singer of 3D The Boss, health and fitness pop artist, Atlanta Jazz Vocalist of the Year 2015, and practicing yogini for 6 years with dedication. She is the mother of 3 children and partner to my brother, C.Lei Adeogba, founder of Your Day Balance Game. And she was one of my first and earliest students when I first began teaching yoga.
That's so cool.
Thanks for joining us today, Shonda.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Will you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Well, you said quite a bit there. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I would say one of my biggest roles is a health and fitness pop artist. And what that means to me is I've always been passionate about my health, and I've always been passionate about music. And since I was 7 years old, played the piano and sang in choirs and all of that. And all the way up through adulthood, did that stuff. And I've always worked out. And with a few freshman 15 fat pounds in between. But anyway, the marriage of those two things together was a huge breakthrough for me. So I get to perform on stage and sing, play my instrument, and do it to health music, which is the kind of music you listen to when you're in the gym working out, and create a show where the people who come to the show are working out with me, but they're dancing, so they don't realize that they're working out. And so it's just a beautiful, I can't take full credit for it because Day created it as well, and it was really his brainchild. At the time, I didn't know that I was going to love the idea, but I do. But I love that we've created this very unique concept of a cardio concert. So I can get more into that later on.
So it's called a cardio concert.
Yes.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
It's cool. It's really cool. And if you go to our website, www.3dtheboss.com, you can actually see some video of one of our concerts, our first concert actually, and you'll get a much more clear idea of what it is.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. So that's the number 3, the letter D,
Yes.
the word the, T-H-E, the word boss, B-O-S-S.
Yes.
No spaces in between, no underscores.
No spaces, no capital letters.
.com.
Yes.
Okay, great. What else would you like to share with us about yourself? I listed a whole bunch about you. You've just got so many things going on. You're amazing. You're a superstar.
Well, thank
You're
you.
a superstar.
That is what you are. I like that song. I would say...
I changed up the words a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It was ghetto superstar. Yes, I wouldn't comment.
Just you're a superstar. You like that change.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
I would say another role that I really imbue is a divine goddess.
Say more.
That title was a very intimidating group of words when I first saw it, and I did some research so that I could understand what it is. My background is Christian Baptist background, and so it's pretty blasphemous according to the way I was raised to call yourself any kind of God, anything. You know, at the same time, I had an understanding innately that if God created me, then I was God in the drop as opposed to a drop of God. And so I had the gall to say that to my parents recently. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
I can only imagine how that went over.
It didn't go over. It's sort of like just hung out there. I think maybe they're starting to digest it a little more now. But as I understand that, a divine goddess is someone who understands that there's a bigger flow, and they are simply a conduit of that flow. And when they're in alignment with that flow, then anything is possible. But when they feel like they have to do it themselves, then they can actually stop the flow or hinder the flow. So it really is about being in a place of faith, peace, surrender, and love. And so therefore, I understand that it can be male or female. It's not gender specific. I think it's human. and anyone has capacity to be in that flow. And then we can also call it divine feminine, which is accessing the yin aspect of our humanity. Mm-hmm. So since I've been practicing being a divine goddess, what my life looks like is a lot more peaceful and a lot more exciting, actually, because there's a lot more possible. When I thought I had to do it all myself, that was very stressful to me and daunting. Like, how am I going to do that? And how am I going to get that done? And oh, there's so much to get done. I can't do it all. No, of course you can't do it all. But who said you had to? Mm-hmm. But if you're in the divine flow, you put it out there like a request. Like, I would like 3 tickets for my children to go to Six Flags on Thursday. So I'm not attached, I'm just saying. And then wait to see how it shows up. Mm-hmm. Just hold the intention and wait to see how it shows up. And be very non-attached to what it has to look like. In other words, I don't have to take them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be this Thursday. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be all 3 of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. Different things like that. The more I allow it to just show up and get out of the detail, the more I'm in alignment and the more it flows. Mm-hmm. And you can take that concept into any area of life. I'm just using that as an example. But I have so many examples. Gosh, it's just like, I feel like I want a cup of tea, something like that. And then I get a notification on my phone that I received a reward from Cafe Vendôme. It's my birthday month, so I get a free tea. Wow, what's the timing of that?
It sounds like creating endless possibilities, and
yes.
You're just manifesting and co-creating. Just
yes.
Magic.
It is. It's very magical, and it's very beautiful. And I really look forward to having these kinds of conversations with other people, mm-hmm. which is what I use my music platform for. Even though I'm singing and dancing and all of that, I also, in between songs, I slip in little stories and stuff, and I share like, hey, I was thinking about this and this showed up and it was magic. And magic we define as being able to influence yourself, someone else, or life itself in a powerful, empowering way. And I've had many, many examples of that. So all of that happens in a show. And me being a divine goddess in the show looks like, first of all, it looks like the guy's picking up my equipment. That's a joke, but it's true.
Because that's not something that often happens in the music industry.
No, it does
you
not.
carry your own load in, carry your own load out.
Yeah, I was telling a funny, but it is true that in your divine flow you will do less and be more. Mm-hmm. And so on stage, what I've noticed is my performance is up because I'm not feeling like I have to do as much. But as long as I'm being, then the music comes out. I know that might be kind of like, what? But it's like, if you know you've practiced and you know your skill set is there, you can trust that and just show up. And when you show up and the music starts and you open your mouth and start singing or start moving, it's there for you. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, I've got to think about everything and walk through every step as I'm performing. No, that's old school. New school is I am prepared, I'm here, and I expect that Spirit will show up and do the rest.
Yes.
So that's being divine goddess.
That's beautiful. And I remember attending some of your earlier concerts when you did do the messages that were subtly implanted into those. I loved that. Resonated so much with me when you were just like dropping those truth bombs. That's when I became one of your biggest fans.
The truth bomb.
The truth bombs.
Well, I could say the same thing about you, Yogini Mimi, because you dropped a lot of truth bombs in our yoga classes. Yes. I'd be holding the pose, those long holds sometimes, and you'd just be talking in that sweet voice. In yoga, we talk about energy. Everything is energy. And I'd be like, oh, well, my energy is about to run out. Can you go ahead and close this one out?
And I probably would tell you, breathe.
And I would remember that. Oh, yeah, if I breathe, I can hold it a little longer.
Well, that brings us to a perfect segue, because I would love for our audience to hear from your perspective.
Yes.
What is yoga to you?
Great. I'm about 6 years in now of practicing, and every time I enter the class, I'm so grateful because it's an opportunity to get out of my head and into my body and into my heart. So I, number one, see it as like a retreat from my everyday routine. And even though it is a part of my routine, it's not an everyday routine. I do it weekly. So that one day of the week, I really look forward to getting out of my head and getting into my heart. I also look forward to seeing where my body can go, because I do believe that the body is showing up exactly as the mind says. So what is going on in my practice is kind of telling me what's going on in my mind, you know. And then there are definitely times when I enter a space wanting reprieve from something I'm dealing with, and I find that right there on the mat is what I'm dealing with. So I usually end up crying, or, you know, just having a harder time getting through the pose, things like that. So I understand that that's all part of it, and yet by the end of every class I feel so great. So I look at it as like a treat, really, almost like going to the spa, you know, and how you sweat it out and you feel great. I look at it like a real gift to myself, a practice that I'll always do for the rest of my life. I did it even when I was pregnant, and I, you know, big old belly in the way and all that, but I still managed to get some of those in there. And I look at it as a spirit-mind practice that can't really happen without the body. So they're all integrated, and I just see it as a gift.
I experience it as a gift every day.
Yeah.
I'm a yoga everyday kind of person myself.
Yeah.
You've been taking classes, and sometimes the practice is on your own.
Yes.
But when you do take those classes, what is an important quality or characteristic that you appreciate in your yoga teachers?
Great question. I've probably had maybe like 7 or 8 different teachers at this point. What I've observed that works for me, if it's a power class or a hot class, I like the teacher to be very peaceful, because sometimes with the power classes there's music, and that's a little distracting. I don't mind the music, but it can be a little distracting if depending on what song it is, and if the instructor is kind of not in his or her peaceful place, then it's hard for me to get in my peaceful place. So I had this one teacher who was kind of like that. She was really funny. She was a comedian, and she liked the music that was very non-yoga-ish, like rock. So that was an adjustment, you know. But I liked her because she was so funny. But she would say these self-deprecating things in the name of humor, and I couldn't find the funny in that as much, because it was like, yeah, there's a little truth to every joke. Yeah. So that part made it a little unsettling for me, so I didn't stay there very long. And then I had another teacher who honestly didn't look the part. I mean, she just looked not very in shape and not able to do some of the very poses that she was telling us to do. So I was a little uninspired about that. Just wondering, like, maybe it's because it's her 4th class of the day. Okay, I could get with that. Or is it that you really can't do it? Mm-hmm. And then I'm looking at you for a model of how to do it, and then you're not able to do it. So that leaves me feeling kind of like, okay, maybe I don't need to be in this class, because I don't want to judge anyone. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I want to get something out of it. I've had teachers who were so flow and amazing that I felt intimidated, like I'm never going to get there. You know, but I appreciate that.
A couple of those.
Yeah. This one guy, I ended up really just loving him, because he was just his poses were just so beautiful. And it gave me an inspiration to work on mine as well. And then, of course, it goes without saying that my time with you, almost 2 years of being under your tutelage, was like, it really opened up yoga in a different way for me, because prior to that it was hot yoga, power yoga, playing the music, you know, don't take it too seriously, you know, it's like a fitness class. And then when I got with your class, it was like, no, this is about mindfulness. This is about slowing everything down and using your breath to move through the posture, and letting your breath glide through your body, like how in singing we use the breath to glide the voice. And so I could make that connection, and then being in my yin flow, as opposed to let me knock this out, let me get this thing, which is more like the yang, athletic, competitive thing. It was more like be compassionate with myself, and even if I can't hold it, even if I can't get to the full posture of it, like it's not even about that. It's about the love and the patience with yourself and going where I can go today. And you would say that. That transformed it for me to even more of a treat, which now all the classes that I do are more in that vein. The kind of music that they play is like, it's ambient music, kind of. It's not necessarily meditational, but it is ambient. And I look for that. I look for those teachers that play that kind of music and that talk about gliding on the breath and that talk about being compassionate with yourself, loving yourself, going where you can today. And, this mat is showing you where you are in your life and like all those connections. I gave you a very long answer, but that's what I appreciate and I look for.
It's an answer like that makes me think, when are you going to be a teacher? When are you going to sign up?
Well, I've been told that if I'm not really passionate about teaching it, I'd stay as a student.
I should say yoga teacher because you are already a teacher.
True. I teach piano and voice to a group of young people here in Atlanta, and it's very inspiring. Many of them are doing very, very well, and they're performing already and in plays and getting audition callbacks and all of that. So I do teach, yes. And the passion that I feel for yoga is very personal, so I don't know how well I can translate that to others.
That's what I translated all those years, my personal passion. And I do experience you to have passion around your practice. So.
And yes, I will say I use yoga in my piano and voice lessons.
Yes.
Yes, beginning of every lesson, especially.
Pranayama.
Yes. We do, what's the one? Swan dive, or forward bend. And then I usually have them do dancer's pose, king dancer's pose. They love that. Most of them can't hold it, but they love it just because it looks so cool. We'll do, what is it? Side angle. Triangle sometimes. So they know about tree pose. They know about 6-7 poses from me. And all that is before we start vocalizing.
So what does the yoga help for your students to access when you bring them into those postures?
It's just for me to practice.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And for sure I do it with them, but what I tell them is singing especially takes focus. There's a lot to remember. Your lyrics, your melody notes, when to come in and when to come out, what part of the song you're in, and then emoting, having some emotion in the music so that you're performing as opposed to just singing. And it's a lot to remember if you're getting ahead of yourself, like, what's the next word or what's the next part? And yoga helps you stay in the moment. So what I tell them is, when you're in this king dancer's pose, think about your foot having 4 corners. Sound familiar? And all I want you to focus on is evenly distributing your weight between those 4 corners. And as you're doing that, you're kicking your other foot and you're leaning forward with your... So they're thinking about that, and I said, now you can take that and hold that and then use that same focus when you're about to sing. Think about what's the first thing I'm going to do. And just focus on that. I'm going to take a deep breath. And then when the music starts, I know that I'm going to sing with my triangle face. I'm getting into the details, but just to be focused on one thing at a time and don't get far ahead of yourself, because that's when you start missing things. It's already there. You've been practicing, So that's how I use it. And they seem to be getting it. They seem to be calming down and getting it.
I love the connection because in yoga we call that focus, in Sanskrit, your drishti. And your drishti can either be an internal or an external drishti. So when you're in that king dancer's pose, you can focus on one point on the wall, and that's your external drishti.
Yeah.
But when you're in that vocal space, you're calling upon the energy to find the voice and let it glide on the breath.
Yeah.
You come to that internal drishti.
Yeah.
So I love
That's
it.
Cool. I see that, that connection. I'm glad you put it in those terms because I hadn't thought of the drishti, but that's totally true.
Will you share with our audience, what is your favorite asana or posture?
Can I have more than one?
Yes, you can have more than one because it's you, the C.Lei boss lady.
Okay, I'm a superstar.
Superstar.
I would say my all-time favorite right now is probably it's a binding pose, and I forgot what it's called, but it starts off extended side angle. And then I used to just love that because I could do it so effortlessly. I would notice that if my left arm was down, my right arm was over my head, I could get my arm all the way to my ear. So I was excited about that. And then she started showing us the binding, and I didn't know if I was able to do that, but I tried it with a towel first. And so my one hand underneath my leg had the towel in one hand, and then the other side had the towel in the other hand. And I felt my chest open up so much that I got really excited, because chest is all singing,
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God. So then after the towel, I was like, forget the towel. Let me see if I can do it in real, without the towel. And I was able to hold my hands together without the towel. So I'm just loving how open I feel when I do that particular one.
Bound extended side angle.
Yeah.
Baddha Parsva Konasana. Today, you don't have to know that. Not until you come to the 200-hour teacher training.
Oh, wow. I'm sure I'll know it by then. Yeah, so that's my favorite right now.
That's awesome. I love that pose. I think I was sharing with you, I love how you can go from that into your birds of paradise, which is a balancing posture. It's just so elegant.
Yeah, you did teach me that bird of paradise. I remember taking a picture.
I remember you being in that pose.
Yeah. I'd like to do that one again, because I haven't done it since.
I can't wait to see how far you've advanced, because each time you come to the mat, you find a new, deeper expression of your posture. So it's been 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure I've grown
in a whole new place.
I'm excited to share that with you, because you will know right away where I've grown or not. But that's what it's about. I've certainly grown in my spiritual awareness.
I see it. I see it. Thank you so much, C.Lei Boss Lady, for joining us on this SHIfT Happens. And for you, our audience, if you're curious about learning more about C.Lei, please visit her website at...
It's www.3, the letter D like dog, the, T-H-E, boss, B like baby, O-S-S.
3D the Boss. Thank you for joining on this call, and have a beautiful day.
You've been listening to SHIfT Happens with international yogini Mimi Adeogba. To learn how to build your own yoga brand while creating transformative learning experiences for others, or to listen to past episodes, go to yoginimimi.com.